Haunted Hangover presents Haunted Hall.
Welcome to Haunted Hall. I'm Louie, and in this new show under the Haunted Hangover umbrella, I'm wearing myself thin here. The third show under the Haunted Hangover umbrella, I guess is what you'd call it. I'll be joined by my friend of many years, Manny.
Hello.
And the idea with this show is obviously we're going to be talking about horror movies because we're going to be talking about romantic drama, romantic comedies. That's what we're going to be talking about, Manny, on this show.
The Before Sunrise trilogy. That's it.
You know what? I wouldn't mind talking about those three movies.
That might be the exception.
That might be the exception. But we're going to be talking primarily about horror films. But there's a rule. It has to be on physical media of some kind. Yes.
A disc.
You're holding up the movie we're going to be talking about too, by the way. So
spoilers.
Watching the video. Yeah. Well, they already saw the title, so they already know what movie we're talking about. Yeah, they know what they're getting themselves into. But yes, it has to be on some form of physical media: Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, maybe even Laserdisc. Fuck it, I don't have a player, but maybe you do, Manny. I have no idea.
No,
yeah,
I've actually never had Laserdisc. I have video disc, but I've never had Laserdisc. We always had video disc when I was young.
I never had a Laserdisc either. I couldn't even. I don't even think I had a family member with a Laserdisc. So it was a very short-lived format. I think I was too young, or I wasn't even born yet. Maybe right.
It was short-lived, but it had a legacy because there are DVDs. A lot of DVDs when they were released in the 90s were just ports from their Laserdiscs and video disc versions, like Creepshow. Was the same menu and the same transfer that was on the video disc went straight to the DVD, and then the crappy first Blu-ray was pretty much the same thing, just blown up. Same menu on all of them.
It's even the commentaries were ported over, right? From some because I know commentary. That's like where they were started. Commentary tracks were started on the Laserdisc. It's kind of crazy how Laserdisc just morphed into DVD, and that's what stuck until Blu-ray came around. So. Wild. But yeah, that's the rule. So no streaming on Haunted Hall. We're not allowed to stream.
Not allowed to stream.
We're not allowed to stream the movie we're watching. That'd be cheating. So I even want us to eventually cover some stuff that's not streaming anywhere. That'd be kind of cool if we can find. We'd have to do some research. What horror movies aren't.
It's just a matter of timing because movies, they go up and then they disappear, and they go up and they disappear.
Yeah,
like I don't know if the Changeling is streaming right now. I know it's
probably
like VOD, but I don't know if it's
Amazon
actually
and
streaming.
Stuff.
Yeah, it was on Shudder. It was on Shudder over the summer.
It might still be there. They've pulled it a couple times. They put it up. They get the licensing for it for like 3 months, 90 days or something. Take it down, then 6 months later get it back. That's the bad thing when it comes to streaming. You lose shit, and it goes to other streaming platforms. And unless you pay for all of them, the physical media will always come in handy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So people have to appreciate the physical media. Hobby. And yes, I was about to say, it's an expensive hobby. You own way more movies than I do. I'm very picky these days when it comes to what I purchase on physical media, especially some of these Blu-rays, some of the insane prices they're asking for, $50, $60. I've seen Blu-rays for like $100, and it's like 2 discs. It's fucking wild.
I'm actually currently at the very moment I have in my cart because I'm debating on it.
Yeah.
There is a pre-order this weekend only on at Cauldron Films. They're doing the 4K of City of the Living Dead, and it's only available from now through Monday.
Really?
Yep. So it's a limited run. It's just what as far as I know, it's just whatever they pre-order this weekend. That's it.
Better jump on that, Manny.
Dude, it's sitting in my cart, and I'm like, but it's $50 for City of the Living Dead.
And that's the problem. That's the only issue is I don't think, well, maybe some people are, but we're not rich enough to buy all of these releases.
Dude, I'm like, oh, my credit card is like ridiculous. I mean, I've been keeping up on it, but like this sort of shit, it's ridiculous.
And unfortunately, people like us in the horror, and it always caters to horror fans and hardcore horror fans because we love physical media. There's an entire VHS culture because of predominantly horror movies. And cult movies and exploitation movies and shit like that. But they're directing all this stuff towards us because they know we're gonna buy it. 8 copies of The Beyond just because you need to have all the. There's extra special feature on each one. It's so and
See, I don't get
a different
that
transfer. Yeah,
I don't
the
get
transfers
that ridiculous.
I know are popular.
Yeah, it's what it is. Sometimes it depends on the transfer. It depends on the movie. Like The Beyond, I still have the tin box.
Yes.
Remember that tin box? What was that? Was that Anchor Bay?
No,
that wasn't Anchor Bay.
That was Anchor Bay. Yes, it was Anchor Bay.
Was it Anchor Bay?
I think I have the same. I have the same DVD, but not the tin. You've had that tin case for a very long time,
and I have not upgraded it yet because nothing has been cooler. Like I haven't gotten a new Beyond because of that. They just announced
Grindhouse
Beyond
releasing has it, right?
I think it's good. Yeah, they've announced a 4K. So I'll upgrade to the 4K. City of the Living Dead, same thing. I had the cheap Anchor Bay DVD, and I never upgraded. I finally got the Blue Underground Blu-ray over the summer because I found it on sale for like $12.
That's my type of price.
Yes, perfect. So I finally got it, and now they released this, and now they're putting out this. And what the beauty of this is that it's the 4K, it's the Blu-ray, and the CD.
Everything.
So it's yeah. So it's that I'm okay with upgrading when it's going to be both.
When it's worth it.
It's going to be both
purchase.
the 4K and the Blu-ray. I mean, at this point, I have a 4K player. Like you said, you don't have a 4K player yet.
Yeah, I said that before we hit record that I do not own a 4K Blu-ray player yet, but I am looking to hopefully purchase one soon because I would like to also buy some of these new 4K special editions of some of my favorite movies. I'm at the point now, and I'm curious if I think you're a little looser with your purchasing. I only want to buy too loose. You're too loose.
Too loose sometimes.
Close it up. Close those legs up, buddy. I buy movies that I know I love. Like that's when I'll purchase an insane special edition of a movie. It has to be like, for example, The Beyond. I love The Beyond. I know you love The Beyond. That's a movie that I too would. I have the. I think it's the Blu-ray. It might be 2K. I don't really think it's the 4. It's obviously not the 4K Blu-ray from Grindhouse releasing. I think it was like 2 disc or 3 disc. I forget. But that of The Beyond, I believe it's maybe 2. I know it's Grindhouse releasing for sure. It's back there in my rack. And like, it's a few years old. So if I were to upgrade it, it would be the 4K. So that's I get it. Just because you want a better just transfer and it looks nicer on your TV, yada yada. I'm sure you have to be a film kind of a cinephile to appreciate shit like this because most people are like, I can just stream it on Tubi or wherever the hell the movie is. A lot of these movies we love, these old horror films and exploitation movies, are on Tubi. Yeah, some of them are really shitty transfers, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's also streaming.
Within this old house live 2 residents. One of them is John Russell, composer, professor. The other has been dead for over 70 years.
Claire, I'd like to talk to you about the house.
Did you die in this house? How did you die?
Whatever it is, it's trying desperately to communicate. What is it in that house, Claire? What is it doing? Why is it trying to reach me?
But only a few can really terrify you. The Changeling, an experience beyond total fear.
But yeah, The Changeling, 1980. Now,
Peter
before we
Minnick.
go into the details, Peter Is it Peter Medak? Is that how you pronounce it? Medak?
Yes, Medak. Yeah.
Peter Medak was the director of the film. Before we go into the actual synopsis and kind of what happens in this movie, very brief synopsis. We're never going to do deep dives into every nook and cranny of the script because we're going to have a conversation about it. But I know you're a big fan of this movie. I remember when we first met 100 years ago, you had a Laserdisc, right? Nailed to the wall. Video disc.
Yeah.
You had it up on your wall, and I know you've always championed this movie. Big top 5 for you, right?
Yes, top 5.
and I'll be honest, as like a kid, like if you think about it, when this movie came out when you were a kid, it is a slow paced movie. But why, for you, was this such an important horror movie? Like why do you love it so much?
Well, first off, it's kind of conditioning. Like, the things you watched when you were young, you love it. Like, especially the things you watch consistently. Mm-hmm. You know, you just love it. There's something about it. Like, it was formative.
Yeah.
When I was young, we had a video disc player, and we had the main movies I watched was The Changeling, Halloween 3, just like Creep Show. Yes.
I even know. Yes. I even know what
That's
movies
right.
you love.
Total brain fart right there. Yeah. Creep Show, Halloween 3, The Changeling, and Altered States.
Yes. Those are definitely Manny movies.
Those are
just as someone that has known you for a long time. Those are 100%. Those are Manny movies right there.
Yes, 100%. And those were the 4 for whatever reason. I think we also had a copy of The Entity.
Which I want to cover. I would love to dive into that one.
We had a copy of The Entity, and these are all on video disc. And everything else was regular movies. Like, we had Superman, we had Star Wars, we had Eddie Murphy, Delirious, we had Richard Pryor on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
You know? But these were the horror movies we had on video disc. And I watched them, like, every day. I would just grab another one and pop it in, grab another one and pop it in. So this became one of those regulars for me. So, like, I love it partially because I just watched it so much. And and when we talked a little bit beforehand, while we were planning this show, you said, something that's, I mean, kind of getting into it early right now, where you said, even when you talk about a movie you love, sometimes talk about the things you don't like.
Yeah.
And that does create interesting conversation. Like, as much as I love the movie, it can't be perfect. Yeah. I watched it again today I watched it like a couple hours ago just so it's fresh in my mind. And I said to myself, okay, think about what you don't like. I could not find a single thing.
Yeah, to you, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah, I watched it, and there was not a single thing in it other than like nitpicky little details. Like, oh, I think that line delivery. Yeah, like the line delivery was a little off, or maybe that they could have cut that a little, like 2 seconds shorter. But I feel like no, that's not like a problem with the movie. That's just little things, that I feel are probably fixed with time and style of filmmaking. Something where it's like, okay, well, if you were to do this today, that would be a little shorter, that would be a little faster, that would be just because the time dictated how you made movies.
Again, it's a 40-year-old film, so things were very different. Audiences were very different in 1980. So if you even the 70s or just a few years, you think about it, which is kind of crazy because this movie feels more, 1980. It feels like it was shot in the 70s.
It feels very 70s.
Very 70s. And I think that's one of the strongest things about it. Before we dive too much into it, because I know that'll happen, one quick thing. I actually saw this for the first time with you. A long time. Really? I don't even think you remember. I watched this for the first time with you. I didn't watch this until I was like 17 years old.
Wow,
with you and Lynn and maybe Ray, I think might have been there. We watched it on DVD. I remember years ago. And I remember enjoying it, but thinking it was,
that's
that
the
one. Is that like a Warner Brothers like snap case or whatever, right?
Yeah, the gatefold.
The gatefold, there you go.
Yep.
I remember watching that. I remember watching it for the first time with you. Up until meeting you, I didn't know about this movie. I did not know it existed until I met you because I knew it was one of your favorite movies, and you randomly put it on. I forget the context why you put it on. It might have been like I just was like, I never saw it.
It might have been just that where I said you have to see it. Yeah.
And we put it on and we watched it at like 2:00 in the morning, which is probably not the best movie to watch at 2:00 in the morning.
I think it's the best movie. I think it's probably the best movie to watch at 2:00.
Well, some people I'm sure would disagree with us because it's very slowly
some
paced.
Some people are losers.
Some people are wrong. No, I'm kidding. It's subjective. All right, so let's go into some of the small details about the film. First, what version did you watch? What release?
I actually watched the Blu-ray that you have, and then I watched the UHD. Both of them are Severin Films releases.
Yes.
So you have this one. I have the slipcover,
which is the 2018 Severin release.
Yes,
correct.
2018 Severin release.
You got the slipcover. I did not. I don't know why.
I did. Well,
this is jabroni.
I did the pre-order as soon as they announced it. I did the pre-order.
That might have been why.
It came with the ball.
Yeah, you got the whole.
It came with the ball.
I have some shit to say about that ball later on.
Oh yeah, I have the poster. There's actually the poster. It's actually behind on the wall that I'm staring at it. It came with the poster of that on a poster. So I have that and the ball.
That's a really cool. I didn't know it came with the ball. That's fucking cool.
They still have it. I'm pretty sure it's still on the website for like $5 if you want it.
The ball by itself? Oh, yep. I might have to fucking go and buy it then. I just want the fucking ball.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they still have it.
Dope.
Yeah. Severin on one side and Changeling on the other.
Yep. I'm gonna jump after we're done recording. I'm gonna jump on and just buy the ball randomly from the Severin website.
Goes well with my May eyeball.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude. I had no idea they released the ball. But that's like you said. I'm watching the 2018 Severin release. Now, there was a little drama with this release, right?
A little bit. That's why I got this. Not why I got this one.
What was the issue with this release again?
The first run of it, which is what I have, and I didn't hear it. Well, no, that's not. Well, I didn't check for it actually. On the 5.1 audio mix, there are apparently some sound effects missing in a couple of scenes.
That's crazy.
And there's a line or two of dialogue that's missing.
Wow.
Yeah, because I mean, you clean up audio. You know what it's like when you clean audio. Sometimes you layer it. You take it apart, you layer it, and then you clean that, and then you let it.
They just completely forgot it was missing completely.
It happens sometimes. Sometimes when you're doing that, especially when hey, you've edited feature films. You know how many audio layers you have. It's very easy to accidentally leave one muted.
Yeah, for sure.
And
even on the podcast, you want to you want to add some sort of sound effect, or you want to add music or something to it. You might just leave it on mute by accident when you export.
It's very easy to leave a layer muted, and I have a feeling something like that is what happened. So there was a couple of sound effects and one or two lines of dialogue that were missing in it, and they did a replacement disc. Now that was only on the 5.1 mix, which is the one that they cleaned up, and I'd never watched it with the 5.1. I only watched it with the 2.0, the original stereo mix.
Yeah.
I did then watch it with the 5.1, but and I did notice an audio difference when he's walking to George C. Scott is walking into Lincoln Center. He's going up the staircase, and then it cuts to is it Lincoln Center, or maybe he's already in the other whatever, and it cuts to him talking to his friends about the new job that he's about to have. And he's talking when he's sitting in front of the fireplace with them. Right before that, I did notice that the fire trucks and the sounds of the city were a lot more muted. Like I actually switched between the two. I pulled up the DVD menu and I went back and forth between the 2.0 and the 5.1 audio, and I could hear it was noticeably different. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was the first pressing of it. Then they did a replacement disc, which apparently had another issue as well. And then they did a third run of it.
Wow, what happened, Severin?
Yeah,
what the hell?
I know. So they did 3 different runs of this disc.
That's wild that they had to do. I wonder what version I have. I wonder if I have any of the.
I don't know.
I would have to go through it and figure it out. Yeah,
you'd have to watch it on 5.1 to figure out, to see if you have the issues.
I guarantee I didn't watch it on 5.1.
I'm sure if you don't have the slipcase, you probably don't have the first run. So I'm assuming I have that. I'm assuming that's the copy I have.
So the people that paid full price for this special edition got the shitty, not shitty. It's honestly such a small detail. I'm sure there were people that watched it that didn't notice, and there were some people that were paying it. I'm sure of it.
I did not notice it. I didn't notice it when I didn't notice that they said that apparently there's a line or two of dialogue missing. That's muted.
Yeah, well, and you didn't even notice it at all.
I did not notice that at all.
And you know the movie pretty well.
I know it very well, and I didn't notice it. So, so they did a replacement disc program, and as a result of these boutique labels, the fact that they're run by 2 or 3 people, really, like Severin is like 5 people. You know, Vinegar Syndrome is 5 people that run everything. You know, Cauldron Films is 1 guy. They end up having a very close relationship with their fans. So when there's a problem with the discs, you end up emailing like the owner of the company, like who's the company? What's this guy's name? David Gregory is the British guy that pretty much runs Severin. You know, and I think he's in the group, and he answers a lot of the messages. And
he's like, "Hey, I'll send you a replacement. Don't worry."
That's what happened. A lot of people complained, so they did a run of replacement discs, and everybody who bought it automatically got a replacement disc.
That's cool. At least they have good customer service on their end. That's a good thing. So to get back onto this now, I watched that Blu-ray because I wanted to compare, because since they were doing the new version, they did a new transfer. And they used the internegative, I think, this time. And so it's a new 4K. It's a new 4K transfer of the internegative of the Changeling, and holy shit, it's like a visual difference, the visual difference between them. Like, you see movies, there are a lot of movies where you see them, like Vinegar Syndrome does all these. Vinegar Syndrome is really good at doing restorations and making it look like the original film. Okay. And Scream Factory tends to do a lot of their restorations look really good, but sometimes it just looks like they make it look like a new film. They make it look very I wouldn't say digital exactly, but it looks very clean. It looks like something like if it was a fresh film print today. That's what it would look like. I see what you're talking about, especially like certain movies, especially really old movies or really low budget movies. You can kind of see,
and they clean them up
in the releases. So.
Yeah, they clean them up, and they look great. You know, so like the first Changeling, the one that you have, looks great. Yeah. This though, I feel like I was watching a film print.
That's amazing.
It looked gorgeous. The grain that's back in there, the blacks are so heavy and deep, but you don't lose any detail. It absolutely looks gorgeous.
I love the grain. I love that you can see it. That's like one of my favorite aspects of watching these movies on such a high resolution. I don't know. There's a charm to it. You don't see that in movies now, which is really sad. So
you really don't. You know? So this is a movie I've been watching my entire life, and I felt like, oh my God, I've never seen it like this before. It was like when I got that. Did you ever see the original, the Region 2 Blu-ray of Creepshow in the black cover?
No, I never watched that version.
It was the first time that the movie had been restored since the Laserdisc.
Wow.
So the Laserdisc, the video disc, the DVD, and the Blu-ray were all the same copy until this Region 2 release. And again, I felt like I was watching the movie I'd been watching my entire life. I bought that. I felt like I was watching it for the first time all over again because it looked so good. The colors were so bright. The blues, the reds, everything was so gorgeous.
I wonder if the Scream Factory release of Creepshow is the same transfer, or is it completely different?
I think it might be the same transfer. But I have that too. It also looks way better than
that. Looks really good too. I haven't watched it in a while, but it does look really good. So. Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah. I really would like to, like I said before, I need to get a 4K player just so I can watch some of these movies and have my mind blown.
Part of the best and worst part is the fact that I'm watching it on a 4K player, but I only have an HD TV. I don't even have a 4K TV, so like,
step it up, man.
When I get a 4K TV, oh my God, I'm gonna watch it all.
You're gonna watch gorgeous. The Changeling end up in the movie. That's how fucking clear this shit's gonna look.
I'm gonna walk Lincoln Center. There I am.
you're gonna a corduroy jacket is just gonna appear on you like George C. Scott in the movie.
Right.
You're gonna be right next to him, same outfit. So yeah,
black leather satchel.
Black, yes, wearing black leather gloves and a pair of blue dad jeans with your leather shoes.
Oh my God, the jeans, the
jeans.
pants.
This is my favorite part. I trust me. It's one of my favorite aspects of the movie is just George C. Scott, the John character. We'll get into that a little later. But some small details. Once again, Changeling, 1980, directed by Peter Medak.
Yeah.
Starring George C. Scott, who is a very well-known actor. If you don't know who George C. Scott is, I can't help you. He's a very, very popular
Well, if
actor.
you don't know who George C. Scott is, you're listening to the right show because we're going to educate you and we're going to open your whole world up.
There you go.
To the world of George C. Scott.
There you go. And then Trish Van, I'll consider her the I guess supporting co-lead. Yeah, which was his wife in real life. Up until the day he died, which is amazing. They had very good chemistry for a good reason when you watch the movie. Let me get into a little synopsis here. I know you have one too, but it's a bit long, so maybe we'll dive
keep
into
it short.
mine.
And my synopsis will come out in parts because there's a story that goes with the movie. So
there you go. Yeah. So the Changeling follows a NYC, New York City, based composer named John Russell, who recently, we see it happen, pretty bleak, pretty depressing, loses his wife and daughter in a horrible snowball fight accident. I'm just kidding. Listen, a snowball fight.
Snowballs.
The snowball. It is a snowball fight, and they do die while the snowball playing with snow. They're crushed by a car that's hit by a truck that swerves. It's a fucking mess. While George C. Scott is trying to call, I guess, like AAA or something.
He's calling for a tow truck,
a toad. I don't even know if AAA was around.
Their car breaks down on the side of the road, and they're just they pushed the car until they got to a phone booth, and they're out on this weird side mountain
like upstate
road.
New York by a ski mountains and shit like that. But yes, they're both killed. He's obviously very depressed. And he gets, I don't know if it's explained or not. Maybe Manny, you can clarify this small detail. He gets a new job and decides to relocate to Seattle, Washington. Yes,
he's a world-class composer, and he's working on a new composition.
Yes.
In the meantime, he gets himself a job at his old music school as a guest lecturer. For the semester, he's going to teach a class. One of the classes he took. So he's coming on in the semester for this, and while he works on his new piece, and he rents a historic mansion from the Historical Society in Seattle.
Yes, that's what it is. Because I know there's a little more to it. I didn't want to just brush over why he's there. He's a composer. That's, like you said, that's kind of the main reason he goes. Plus, he's dealing with this really depressing, horrible event that happened to him in his life. So yeah, he rents this
3 months. Yeah. It was actually 3 months after.
Wow, I didn't even catch how long after it was. But yeah, he rents this mansion from a local historical agent named Claire. And we learned that the mansion's been empty. Yes, his again, George C. Scott's wife. The mansion's been empty for 12 years, and John starts to learn that the house is haunted by a spirit of a boy who was, and I'm sure we're going to get into it because I don't want to talk about the ending just yet.
We will get into it, 100%.
Yes, we will get into the ending. But the spirit of a boy who was murdered by his father in the house, and John is slowly uncovering the dark truth of what happened to this boy. Hence the name, The Changeling. If you know what that means, that word.
That's it. Spoiler.
Spoiler. You ruined the movie for yourself. Yes.
The title of the saw film, the Angelina Jolie movie, you know what a changeling is.
if you're watching the Angelina Jolie movie, you're watching the wrong. Turn it off. You're watching the wrong Changeling. That's not what we're talking about at all. It does not star Angelina Jolie at all.
I'm going to try to get us some
Help.
help.
Come on, let's have a snowball fight.
No.
So hey, let's just go into some stuff we really love about this movie. And I'll start, and I want to talk about that opening because of how, and I remember the first time watching this movie once again with you, it is really bleak. It's cold, the snow, you can see the breath, the innocence of his wife and his daughter just playing, having a good time. And it's not one of those, the movie never cuts away. It's a wide shot. You see them get fucking run over. You see it happens. And then you see, and honestly, I don't mean to laugh because it is really depressing. For some reason, John can't get out of the phone booth. He's just locked in there. I will admit it's a bit silly why he can't get out of it. I'm assuming some snow is blocking it or something.
It's one of those old movie things where and you know what, they still do it in movies now.
Yeah, they do.
Where people they're in such a panic at what they're doing, no matter how mundane their task is, they're going to screw it up because of their panicked nature. So,
and he watches this. He sees this shit happen.
He's literally on the phone, and he looks this way, and there's a truck coming, and he can see the truck like pivoting through
slowly,
the snow because it's making a turn,
swerving and all this shit.
He sees the truck swerving. He turns and he sees them behind the car. So the two of them are snowball fighting behind the car, which is why they can't see the truck coming at them. You know, because her daughter's like 6 years old, so mom is kind of hunched over and down on her knees and stuff playing with it. So the truck is behind the car, so they can't see it. He turns the whole thing, and it seems like it's like you said, like why can't he open this? But the fact is, this happens in about 5 seconds.
Yeah,
like
it
if you
plays
got a truck,
out a little longer. It feels
plays
longer.
in slow motion.
It's a movie. It's also a movie. So
it is a movie.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But it's funny because if you think about it, even what I'm saying makes no sense because if he could get out, I guess the movie would not. It wouldn't happen.
It would be able to have a movie.
There would be no Changeling.
Yeah. But
so
it's part of what's so amazing about the film is the fact that you feel like how could he not get out so long? Because if you've ever been in that sort of traumatic situation, everything comes to a slow crawl. Yeah. Like everything is extended and it feels like a long moment. Something that happens in a matter of seconds feels like minutes. Yeah. And that's kind of how they... Yes, that's exactly how they portray the scene. Like it's this long moment because that's how it's happening to him. It's happening in slow motion and there's nothing he can do. He's just in this phone booth. I don't understand why he would have closed the door to the phone booth to begin with, other than habit, I guess. Because
we're definitely overthinking it.
Yes, totally overthinking it. We're totally overthinking it.
There'd be no movie if he could, I guess,
it's a
warn
very
them.
simple, mundane thing that he gets in a phone booth, and because he's in the phone booth, he doesn't have the time to open the booth, run across the road through the snow to save his family from the truck that's coming at them 50 miles an hour. And
the way it plays out too, it's so quiet and scenic.
Yep.
For this to just
cut
happen.
The audio to
Yeah. And it's funny. This is all before the title, like the title sequence too. So you're hit with, and probably the most depressing aspect of the movie, or no, you don't. There's some more depressing shit later on, but I think
no, but it's pretty bleak.
I think it's the darkest aspect of the whole movie, even when you learn some other shit that's going on with the ghost and all that. But it starts off with a bang, and that's one of the strongest aspects of this film. I think it's just I always remember like his family being murdered. That's like even when I hadn't watched it in a while, like I watched the movie and let's say a few years passed by and I watch it, that image of him banging on the glass. And just them being fucking slammed by this car into snow. They get
crushed by the truck hits them. There's a sign on the side of the road it goes through the sign it's a sign for the resort or whatever that's up there or something, whatever trail they're on. It goes through the car, it goes through the trail, the sign, the trail sign, and you literally see them covered in snow and the car just totally overtakes them.
Very like Final Destination-esque.
Just kind of straight up like overhead shot.
Hitting. So.
And then it cuts back to him in the phone booth and his reaction of that moment where he realizes what just happened. And then it freeze frames into the title
The Changeling.
Yeah. And you stare.
Which is great.
And you just hold on his face for about 10 seconds of just that look of
I'm
utter
a
terror.
sucker for, like, even aesthetically, I've always loved, and I've done it in my stuff. I like the freeze frame on the title. Or just a black screen on the title, because that's always, like, I just aesthetically I feel like it packs a punch in movies, and in this movie it 100% packs a punch because of the emotional, just how distraught this character is, and you've only been with them for 3 minutes max, and that's even I think I'm overdoing it. I don't even think the intro is that long. I think it's maybe right.
It's maybe 3 minutes. Yeah,
maybe 3 minutes, and it again hits you full force. Like, this is gonna be some shit you're about to watch.
Father, the well, ranch, sacred heart, my medal.
And they even said this in some of the behind the scenes stuff that's on there, and some of the commentaries about how it's a trope to have someone who's just lost a family member or someone close to them in a horror movie where they've just lost them. Now let's stick them in a big empty house.
Yeah.
Because this gigantic empty house just accents how lonely and isolated and separated from everything they feel. How much they feel like they have nothing left.
Yeah.
You know? And this gorgeous, gorgeous historic house. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, aesthetically it looks great, and just everything about it feels. It's got a lot of like wood architecture inside of it, and wood just kind of structures.
And it's a set.
I know. See, I didn't know that, which is fucking crazy.
The whole house is a set.
And what's wild is, if you think about it, you only see certain rooms in this house. You only see like the downstairs, that I guess foyer or whatever.
You see most of the downstairs. You only see one
attic.
Room. I think you see one room upstairs and then the attic.
Yeah, you don't see
and the basement.
For such a big in the basement. For such a big ass house, you only see certain part. And again, you think about it. The Shining, another.
Well, there
big,
actually is. They actually did do that on purpose too. There is there's one entire floor of the house that he never goes to.
Yeah,
which
is cool.
He never even enters. Yeah, the house is so big. There's a whole one entire floor. He never goes. He's never there. Like he has the one room that he sleeps in on the second floor. There's a third floor of this.
But
he's never
see
on.
it.
He's never on the third floor, and you only.
I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah, you only ever see the second floor bedroom that he's in. You never see the other rooms. You see the hallway, the staircase, and the closet that leads to the room.
Yeah, they must have written that into the script just because.
No, they did do it on purpose.
They did do it on purpose. That's a cool little. The
director did it on purpose. He says there's an entire floor that he never enters.
You never see.
Yes.
They even say in the movie, I believe it's the Claire character says that they wanted to turn it into a museum, and that's what it looks like. It looks like a kind of museum deal. I also like how it's always
staff.
Yeah, there's like people
you see
working
that they even
there,
have
right?
staff. That their job is to keep the house clean and dust it regularly and polish everything because it's owned by the historical society. So he's just renting it. So
he's just hanging out there for a temporary
his rental
time.
Exactly. And historical societies do this where they have these old homes. It's not as easy as it's not a very easy thing to do, but that's part of where the drama begins in this is that his paperwork was pushed through quickly.
Yes.
Because this is the sort of thing to rent a historic house, it takes a lot. Like they
I can't
references
imagine.
and everything. Yeah, they have to prove you have to prove to them that you are not going to destroy this place because it's, again, it's historic. But your rental is going to go to the upkeep of the house and help pay the maintenance and everything. But there's something more to that. We'll get into that later. There's a little more to that.
I also want to point out that there's stained glass outside. There's like stained glass windows. There's I noticed in a few shots there's like a little fog that just to kind of give it that ambiance of a creepy.
Did you watch
mansion.
the behind the scenes stuff?
Yeah, I watched all the special features.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I
you
did.
Okay.
It's
right,
actually
it's
based on a true story.
Yes.
Yeah, it's based on a true story. I figured we'll close out the show kind of running through. That'll be our format. We'll kind of run through the kind of some of the special features briefly and kind of talk about it. But yeah, I agree. It's just and again, the only other movie I could think of, or one of the movies that I could think of, is The Shining. Even though that's a hotel, but still, just a huge, creepy space that's a set but feels real. I thought this was. Yeah. Yes. I would have thought this was. I thought that was the interior. I guess I might have missed that. I might have missed that detail. I had no idea.
The interior is all a set. The front of the building is a facade. Mm-hmm. So there is a building that they use, and then they just built the facade on front. And as soon as again, it's in the special features, the way they explain it exactly that. As soon as he steps through the door, you're on a set.
Yeah. That's crazy. I love how, because I haven't listened to the commentary yet, so that's one thing I definitely want to dive into eventually on this Blu-ray. I haven't had a chance to watch it again with the commentary. I'm sure they talk all about that, and the art director I think mentioned that. That's probably why I might have missed it in the special feature. He might have talked about it in that special feature.
Yes, and they talk about building the house,
building the house and stuff like that, which is really cool. I also want to talk about just, George. We'll talk about it now. I feel like we should just get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. George C. Scott, just his performance is great in this movie. George C. Scott is great in everything, but this character of John Russell and everything about him, his swagger, I guess, and he does have a swagger for someone who's kind of like a stuffy composer. You kind of get that, and. You only get a small glimpse of how charming he is, specifically during the lecture, where he jokes. Like, so one of the first things, he makes a joke, and
it's not raining outside.
It's not. It's great, and in this movie, I feel like in this movie specifically, George C. Scott didn't get to utilize that tool too much. There's only a little bit of it because the character's dealing with so much drama, and he's dealing with a ghost that's kind of abusing him to get this information out. You know what I mean? And kind of fucking with him the entire movie. But just everything about him, his hair, the jacket, the way he carries himself. When he's talking to Claire, they never really flirt with each other. Which I do like about the movie. There isn't any of that with this female
John's character is very different, especially for a haunted house film. It's very different. Yeah. And it was also something that they did on purpose. They purposely, like, even him, he's not the type of actor you would choose for this kind of role.
No.
But Peter Medak, they wanted him specifically because his choice for the character was that, think of a haunted house movie. Think of any haunted house movie, and what do you have? Like, even Amityville Horror. You got Mr. Brolin.
Insane.
You got
That's always been
awesome Mr. Brolin, and then so there's him going nuts, and the wife who's losing it because of fear.
Shining, that's another one where it's just the dad slowly going insane throughout the entire movie.
Exactly, and then you have the wife who's just panicked.
Yeah,
most
the entire
of the time,
movie.
And that's generally what your one of two main characters in a haunted house are. You have either the possession or the panic. Yeah, and he was neither of them. He was not. This ghost did not scare him.
No,
which is unique.
He's tough.
Yeah, dude, he's not afraid. He's not afraid that the house is haunted. What the fuck are you doing? What do you want from me?
He literally calls the ghost a son of a bitch in one scene. Which
you son of a bitch.
Like, I love that he just does. There's no fucks given. In this movie.
And that was purposely done where he wasn't going to be afraid. They didn't want someone who was going to run and just panic. They wanted someone who's going to...
He stays in the house, dude. He purposely
leaving is not an option.
Knowing there's a ghost in the house that wants him to do something.
Leaving is not an option. Fuck this shit.
Fuck this. I'm staying here.
What is this sound? What are you doing?
I paid this rent. I'm fucking staying here. You can throw all the balls at me you want. I don't give a shit. Literally, that's the performance in the movie. He just wants to make music. He just wants to do his job and compose shit. And the ghost is fucking with him, trying to get his attention when he's just minding his business. He's literally John is an innocent bystander who just so happened to walk into a haunted house, and now he's basically working with the ghost. So the ghost is forcing
the ghost to leave him the fuck alone already. That's really what it is. Like, she just wants him to leave him alone already. Like, can I finish what I'm doing? But he realizes that the ghost is actually getting to him.
Yeah.
But it's not making him crazy, but it's in his head.
Again, like you said, like, leave me the fuck alone. I just want to be done with this so I can move on with life. I have my own issues is basically what the character wants, especially when it comes to the ghost.
Well, what he does is he wakes up one morning and he hears banging, banging, banging. And it happens the next morning. Well, why would it happen again? So he calls a plumber, and the plumber comes and says, "Oh, the old house. It's an old house. It has pipes. Mm-hmm. It has routine and everything." And he hears it again, and through the course of just I forget what the exact incident was, but he's in a closet and he realizes that behind the shelving unit, there's a door, much like it is in Rosemary's Baby, where she takes the shelves that are on there and she realizes there's a door behind the shelves. He says the same thing. There's like an armoire in this closet, and he pulls the whole armoire, and there's a door there. Breaks through the door. He goes and he realizes it takes him to a staircase that takes him to a small room upstairs. So the house has a couple of spires that you notice. You know, up those little rooms. Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. And so he goes into one of them, and it's a little boy's room. Well, it's a dusty mess of a room. It's a dusty
room with a twisted wheelchair in it.
and a clawfoot bathtub. And a little desk that has a bunch of papers on it, and it was the glass. He's outside. That's what it is. He's outside, and he happens to be in front of the house, and glass bursts out of the house. And he looks up and he sees that there's a broken window up in one of the spire rooms. There's a broken window. So he starts searching through the house trying to figure out what room this is. Yeah. And he realizes that this room that he's in here should go there. Like, how do I get up there? I'm on the wrong floor, you know? And that's when he finds the door and he goes up and there's the broken window. So someone broke the window out from inside. He finds a little diary in there of the kid, and there's a music box. And he opens the music box, and a little ballerina thing starts playing. And the music plays in it. He realizes that the music in the music box is the piece he's been composing,
which is a great little kind of him just realizing oh shit. And they never really dive into how it kind of influenced him. He just notices it, and that's it.
He's in the house and he realizes and they do look into what it is, and he's like, it had to be popular at one point. He's like, but I swear I've never heard this before. But it's the exact same piece that he's been writing the last couple weeks that he's been in this house. So now he realizes there's a little bit more to it, and then he starts hearing voices, and the piano gets hit once or twice, and he gets a psychic group to come in, and
which is a great scene. The whole seance, that's a great scene. Yeah,
I think every haunted house film that has a seance has taken from this scene. Because it's so great. Between this and the one in The Entity, the two of them.
Yeah, The Entity has a great one too.
Those two, because those were both 1980, right? Entity was 79, I think.
It might have been 81, 79, 80, around the same time, not far. Yeah,
I think every haunted house film since then has taken from one of these two movies. Yeah, because
it's just it's so amazingly done. You can see a lot of influence, like. This happens later on, but there's a scene with a well and a skeleton in a well, very reminiscent of The Ring. And the Ring had to have 100%. The Ring had to have maybe the director of the original Ring watched this movie, and it had to have been an influence
it's the same. Dude, it's the same progression. It's everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a woman who finds out that the kid was killed, thrown in a well, buried in the well. A house built on top of the well. Yeah. They dig up the kid, and then the ghost is still not satisfied.
Exactly. It
is exactly the Ring.
Little more of a revenge tale in The Ring, which I guess is where they changed it, because the ghost here. Well, this is revenge.
He is vengeful ghost. He just doesn't take. He doesn't take revenge on them.
Yes, it's not. He's not in The Ring. The Ring, it'll kill random people. Yes. In this, it's more so trying to get to people that are involved in what happened to them.
John is with us. How did you die? Did you die in this house? Why do you remain in this house, Joseph? How did you die?
As a kid, the banging on the walls that he wakes up to, the boom, 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 and the wheelchair chasing Trish Van Devere down, those two scenes scared the absolute living hell out of me every single time I watched it.
They're creepy fucking nightmare. Scenes, and this is a movie that doesn't have it's got creepy moments, but it's not, a jump scare movie. There's not jump scares every 3 seconds, which nowadays, when you watch a haunted house movie,
any real jump
I don't think
scares.
there's any jumps. This is like before jump scares were a thing, I guess, or the term jump scare was a thing.
I think at the time, really, jump scares were like, that was a Giallo thing.
Yeah.
It was a slasher
possibly.
thing. The cat jumping out of,
Yeah. This is not that type of movie where,
that was
there's
jump
no
scares were a
George C.
slasher
Scott.
thing.
There's no George C. Scott walking into a room and then a cat jumps on top of a garbage can or something like that. There isn't any of that, which is definitely, that's probably one of, you watch these movies, these older films, with the mindset that when you watch a movie now, like a more contemporary movie, and you realize that all these tropes, some of these older films didn't even do them. It's kind of fucking crazy. You would think a movie like this would have jump scares and stuff like that, and it doesn't have any of that. Maybe the ball and the piano, possibly, but like you said, it's not really technically a jump scare. I guess
what you hear in the commentary, they talk about a couple of times. Peter Medak, he was originally hired to do. He wasn't hired, but he was approached to do The Others. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, and he loved the script, and he's like, "This is a great script, but whatever, one thing or another, he never did it." And they went with Alejandro Amenabar, and he ended up doing The Others. But he said the script that he saw versus the final movie were completely different.
Wow.
He said the final movie ripped off The Changeling when the original script didn't.
Wow.
So
That's
it's
crazy.
almost like, it's almost like the producers
I love The
knew
Others,
what
too.
I love The Others. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the producers wanted to do a Changeling type movie. And they went to the Changeling director and said, "Hey, you do it. Here's the script, you do it." And they figured that that style will happen naturally. And when it came to finding another director, it's almost like they changed it to the point where it got to the movie that they wanted it to be. Or they told him this is what the decision they made, that they wanted to do something like the Changeling, a modern day Changeling.
Yeah,
and they just
that's kind of
adapted
crazy.
the script. Yeah.
And now thinking about The Others, I could see how they maybe could have fit a similar plot, in that film, like The Changeling. Kind of, maybe, minus the whole they're dead.
It's not so. I don't think it's so much the plot as it is the aesthetic, the pacing, the style, the look, everything. The whole, and he was like, they outright ripped off The Changeling. He says it. He says it, and he's like, they just stole our movie.
We love The Changeling. We're just gonna fucking rip off everything good about it and just make a new movie starring Nicole Kidman. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
and the fact that he was approached to do the movie, it's almost like there's no coincidence here that it's so similar in look and tone and pace to it.
I never even thought about that. Wow, that's wild. That thinking about it, you're right. And I believe in the Others, and it's been a while since I watched the Others.
House.
Dude, there's like those exterior wide shots with the fog fucking blowing by. So I could see how
and the
that was a
seance
big
scene in the
influence.
end. The seance in the end.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Again, all these seance scenes, they all take from the Changeling.
The Changeling definitely was an inspiration for a lot of movies. At least 30 years after it came out, a lot of these, haunted house movies, even something like The Conjuring, you can feel
100%.
The tone.
100%. Is it
slow
The Conjuring
pace.
or Insidious, where she wears the gas mask and she's writing in the book? For the one with Lin Shaye. Which one is it?
That's Insidious. That's Insidious. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've watched Insidious.
When she does the seance, she wears a gas mask so that she can talk directly to him, because it's got the hose and he listens to it. So he talks directly to it, and then she writes. And like that, without take the gas mask away, and it's the same scene with the writing and just the mess and changing the pages and all that.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that. I could see that, being, especially with these movies, especially like James Wan, right? That directed Insidious. Yeah, he probably watched it. Probably a big fan of The Changeling. You don't
100%.
really hear about this movie that often either as an inspiration. Everyone goes to The Shining all the time.
Yeah.
It's like The Shining. Changeling, you never really hear about people being inspired or influenced by it.
Yeah, this is one of those. I think The Changeling, I say this about music too, this is a filmmaker's film.
Yeah.
This is a movie that filmmakers are influenced by. Like Kate Bush everybody loves Kate Bush now but nobody really knows who she is. But musicians know who she is. Kate Bush is a musician's musician.
Yeah.
Typo Negative is a metal band's metal band.
I get what you're saying.
Every metal band, Pantera is inspired by Typo Negative, but but a lot of Pantera fans don't know who Typo Negative is.
Yeah.
But the musicians do.
That makes sense. Like you said,
and I think the Changeling is
film. That makes sense.
Yeah, and Tarantino does that. Like how many movies he's inspired by you've never heard of, but it's I mean, he's just the extreme example of it.
He's
the extreme example of it.
Completely lifting scenes and things from movies he 100%. Loves, and just kind of
100%,
changing up the formula a bit to make it not enough to get in trouble as an homage. Not really,
but you see it. Though,
we all do that
when
as
he
filmmakers.
We all do
things.
exactly.
So.
I say that I mention him just because he's so easy to just people understand. When I say what Tarantino does, where he wears all of his influences right on his sleeve, and you know it, you see it, and then he'll tell you the movie that came out in 1953 that every single film that has done this came from. He'll tell you which Kurosawa film has that specific sound effect of the sword that has been used in 50,000 movies ever since. You know what I mean?
She said she'd seen a boy, very small, very thin, almost gnome-like. And he was trying to come up through the floor. And he kept staring at her.
So, speaking of the seance and all of that, there's more to it. And in both the one that you have and the UHD release, they're both Severin releases. The special features are the same on both of them, which kind of sucks. I was hoping for
extra on the
version,
for a little bit more. The new version.
And they both have the soundtrack too. Like the discs are different. The discs, like it's the same soundtrack, but that's the soundtrack CD on yours, right? And no, that's the soundtrack CD on the new one.
Yeah, I don't think the version I have has a soundtrack. This version doesn't have a soundtrack. It does.
That's the soundtrack.
Mine doesn't.
Oh, see, that's why I got the 2-disc. That's why.
Yeah.
So you just have the Blu-ray. Yeah, that's why I have this fancy blue cover.
Yeah,
because I got the 2-disc with the soundtrack. So now I have the soundtrack twice.
There you go. Double dipping on the sound. Double dipping
in case
on the
I want to listen to it a second
soundtrack.
time.
Yeah.
If I want to listen to it twice. Yeah. So it's funny how we talk about how influential it is, considering the fact that there is supposedly a true story that goes behind this. So in the movie, the film, the house is in Cheesman Park, okay, and it's in Seattle, but it's all based on a story in Cheesman Park in Denver, Colorado,
which was the original name of the film too, right? They wanted to call it House on at Cheesman Park or something like that.
Yeah, House on Cheesman Park, something like that. This was based on a true story by Russell Hunter. Russell Hunter rented a historic house in Cheesman Park, across the street from Cheesman Park, from the actual park, Cheesman Park. He rented a historic house. He was a composer, and he wrote a book that came out. He wrote a book, and this took place, I think, in 1967 or 68 or so, where he had rented this house, this large house, for a year. It was a historic house, so he could work on his composition. And he had rented this big house because the rent was $200 a month.
Wow, that's crazy.
So he couldn't turn it down. But even that was amazing rent, and he's like, fine, I'll take it. $200 a month, I'll take it. And in his book, he tells a story of how he discovered a hidden door inside a closet that led to a staircase and a room of a little boy's bedroom hidden upstairs. And he found the diary of this little boy. This little boy who was the heir to a fortune. The boy was supposed to inherit like $70 million on his 21st birthday, as long as the little boy survived. Otherwise, it would go to one of his distant relatives. The boy's parents couldn't let that get away. So they actually adopted a child and locked their actual child in the attic room with nothing but a little red and white striped ball to play with. That's how the story. That's what the diary says. He lived up there, and he actually the kid supposedly died when he was like 11 or 12, and they raised the adopted son as him.
It's crazy.
And in his 21st birthday, he inherited the family. Yeah, and he actually became a local politician of some type. And that's the literal story of the Changeling. So this is all based on this guy's book. Okay. Beyond that, Cheeseman Park in and of itself has a crazy, crazy history.
I saw that in the special feature about the bodies and it being all the it's like all these graves.
About 100 years ago.
Yeah.
100 years ago, it was a cemetery.
Yeah.
And they never upkept the cemetery. I'm going to do the quick version of it.
Yeah.
They didn't upkeep the cemetery, and the city wanted to do something with it, so they decided they were going to turn it into a park. So they said, well, we got to get the bodies out of here. And something like 20,000 bodies were buried in there. They went to local, undertakers or workers or whatever, and they put the bid out for who would move the bodies to the new location. And they went with the guy with the lowest bid.
What a job to have.
Yes. And this is like 1890s or so.
Yeah.
So this guy does the lowest bid, and he soon realizes they're paying him like $1.75 or $1.95 or something like that per body that he moves. So they're going to take the bodies out, put them in new coffins, and move them to it. So they paid him per coffin. Mm-hmm. All right. So every time he moved a coffin, there's another $1.90 or so. He eventually realized how much work this really was. So he decided to scam the city into paying him more. So they got smaller coffins to make them easier to move. They got literal child's coffins, kids' coffins.
So twisted, man.
They started digging up the bodies and chopping them up into pieces.
Crazy.
And putting like an arm inside this coffin. There's one. Here, put a head in this coffin. There's another. So he would get anywhere from 4 to 7 coffins per body. So instead of $1.90 per body, he was making like $10 per body. Okay,
that's crazy.
Isn't
you think about if you think there's a certain type of individual that could stomach doing something like this. I'm assuming people.
And he had a whole crew of people who did it.
People were built very different back in that time, I'm sure.
Yep.
So
he had a whole crew of people who did this, and after a couple of months, like local people saw what he was doing, and they would pass by, and there would be literal bodies just chopped into parts. I mean, of course they're dried up because these are already decomposed bodies, but there's literal piles of bones and body parts and clothing.
Didn't they offer the families like, hey, if you want to move the body yourself, you better do it now, right? Yeah,
that was next. Yeah, after they realized what he was doing, they took him off of it, and I think he was actually charged for it. And then they actually brought him up on charges of desecration or something like that. And then they contacted all the families and they said, "Look, you have 90 days to get your family members out." Certain areas of the cemetery also were run by different religious groups. There was like a Jewish section, there was a Catholic section. So other parts of the church, so the churches came in then too, and they moved. A lot of them moved their people. By the time it was done, they basically was okay. So you have 90 days, and we're going to start plowing. I'm going to start clearing up. We're going to turn this into anybody who's not removed. Well, they're just going to stay there. Yeah. Because they assumed anybody who hadn't been, they didn't have family, they didn't have anything. And it's like, well, what are we reburying people for if there's nobody else, nobody coming to see them, nobody who cares? It became very cold.
Yeah. It's crazy.
When it was said and done, there was something like estimated between 3,000 and 6,000 bodies that are still under the park. As recently as 2017, they are still finding body parts.
Wow.
They were running an irrigation system in like 2017, and when they dug it up, body parts, not even
bones.
Bodies, like parts. Yes, because they had chopped up. They had
skull
dug up
here, femur there. Jesus
in the overhead shots, you can actually look up photos of Cheeseman Park. You can still see there are sections where you see squares.
That's
wild.
Because
they were just never filled in properly. Over the years, this park was just treated like dog shit.
Yeah,
that's
great.
There are people who have there was a team of hikers, people who were just in the park like picnicking or something in like 2012, and they found body parts. Like they were just there.
When you think about it, a lot of that's like the go-to like Poltergeist, haunted house,
Yep.
Deal where they built the home or the park or whatever over. Well, in Poltergeist, wasn't it an Indian burial ground? But in this case, it was like an actual
You moved
cemetery.
the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies.
Like you leave,
and that's exactly what happened here.
And in this case, it was like not. It was just people from, I'm guessing, the town that was just a cemetery.
Yeah.
So it's really twisted how that happened. And
so this house is
crazy.
directly across the street from it. So the park is already known as kind of haunted by the spirits there. The guy, Hunter Russell, he eventually got tired of it. He went and apparently he found the kid in the well. He found the kid's body in a well or something like, like he actually went.
Crazy.
So that whole part of the story is apparently true. He found it, they excavated, they did the whole thing, and it got worse. This ball, after they found the body, they did the whole thing. He came home and he had just like in the movie where he threw the ball into the water. This guy threw the ball into the mountains. And he came home and the ball was bouncing down the stairs at him.
It's the only time a ball is that terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. He was in the house for about a year and he finally had enough and he had the house demolished. He destroyed the house. And
in the movie, it's played up a way shorter amount of time that John's
he's
in
maybe
the
a
house.
month. Yeah, he's in there for maybe a month.
I took it as almost a few weeks, and that was basically not even a month, maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, not even. Yeah, it's very quick. But he's there for about a year, and he knocks the house down. But and the way that the guy explains it is, so this was a story that I kind of knew before this, but I knew that there's a whole lot more to it. This guy gave in the special features, he gave a 10-minute rundown.
Yeah.
But apparently in the Ghost's final act of defiance, when they went to they knocked it down, something happened and the whole place exploded and it killed one of the workers who was demolishing the house. Yeah. So now the question, and they even say this, what happens to a ghost that's haunting a house if the house is no longer there?
Yeah, if it's destroyed.
Yeah. Apparently people say that they've seen a little boy in the park playing with a little red and white ball.
Wow, that's a really creepy image. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. There are reports of that. So now that ghost has apparently joined the other ghosts of Cheeseman Park, and there's a whole lot more to it. But you can look into this. It's crazy. They were victims of syphilis or something. That the hospital nearby that they were in homeless and stuff. They got tired of actually burying them, spending their own money burying these people, and they just dug mass graves for them.
Oh God, that's
horrible.
horrible.
Also near the park.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
It's on the Blu-ray, I believe the gentleman's name is Phil Goldstein. He's the one that's running down in that special feature. He's running down the story, if I remember correctly.
So.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
he's wearing a lovely shirt with cowboy boots on it.
He is a character.
He is a character and a half. He's wearing a lovely shirt with little cowboy boots all over it, and he's very eccentric. So it is an interesting watch, and watching him describe the story you just told, a little more detailed. Obviously, he wrote an entire book, I think, about it.
Yes,
he has a book about it. It's pretty entertaining. This guy takes this story very serious.
He didn't mention though, because he talks about the family and everything.
Yeah.
The house
he didn't mention some of the details you mentioned.
The fact there is no record of when this little boy should have lived in the house.
Yeah.
There's no record of anybody actually living there though. There's a record of when of the family that lived there about the time that they had a son. It was 1901, and that's when this little boy should have been born. But if he died when he was 11 or 12, it would have been 1912. The house was vacant for about 10 years at that time.
Wow, that's weird. Yeah, that's weird.
So it's quite possible that Hunter Russell's entire book is bullshit.
Wow.
That he just made that whole story up.
He just made the story up to sell it, maybe.
To sell a book, There's actually no record of it. It is really cool.
Market the book, and this is way before, viral marketing. Just tell people it's true. And everything you said plays into the ending of the film with this senator not being the biological son of the person in the house because the real son was murdered and he has no idea that he inherited all this shit, but he's not biologically related to that guy. So it is interesting how they lifted basically the entire ending and plot of the Changeling is the story, and it does make for a good creepy ghost story. Just all together, just how it works and plays out. I do want to talk about the ending of the movie a little bit to kind of segue back into the movie. How do you feel about the whole thing where when George C. Scott John confronts him and tells him, basically, why I'm here. I'm not here to blackmail you. He tells
you suspected something was wrong your whole life.
Yeah, you knew something was wrong, and this is what happened. And George C. Scott's telling him, and he kind of blows him off. He's like, "Oh, fuck you." He doesn't say "fuck you," but you know what I mean. He kind of just blows the guy off. When we cut back to the house later, and the ghost is upset and it's on fire, and he sends a guy to, he thinks he's being blackmailed. He sends like one of his one of the cops or something like that, to kind of bribe him, or like, hey, we know what you're doing, don't fuck with us, and the cop dies. The whole last act of the film moves very quickly. The cop dies, and then he goes and confronts the senator.
It
the cop
escalates
dies
real fast.
really quick. House is engulfed in flames. What did you think about the senator, kind of just a vision of him appearing in the house while it's on fire, and then he dies of a heart attack when I
was young, I always thought it was that suddenly he was like transported there and he's walking up there because John sees him walking too. Yeah. But in the commentary, he says that he says it in the way it should have been, is that there's the one shot of the senator stare and the desk is shaking and the picture shaking. He has a heart attack right then and there. He dies and has a heart attack there. So it's actually his spirit that is now back in the house where he grew up. Oh,
that makes sense then. It doesn't read that. It doesn't come off that way when you watch the movie. It comes off as almost like George C. Scott's having a vision.
I always thought...
George C. Scott's on the floor, the chandelier almost kills him, and he's watching the senator walking up the stairs to the attic where the spirit, the spirit of the boy is.
I always thought, like, how the hell did he suddenly get to this house? Like, did the spirit... Did the boy pull him physically there,
It's almost like a weird, like, limbo situation where he's in the middle of death. So, like you said, his spirit, I guess.
That's how the director... That's how Peter Medic explained it.
Dead, because the scene...
You missed it, though. He is already dead, though. He is.
Because it cuts back to him on the floor, and he's kind of dealing with everything. I guess just in the edit of the finale and that ending scene is it's a little funky, but
if we was going to say one thing, if I was going to say one thing I didn't like, then maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just that it's really not. It's the editing is really weird. Like, you should have shown. I think they should have shown him die from the heart attack first, and then him appear in the house. Where it's like, okay, clearly his spirit left his body, and now he's back in the house, and he's going back up to the room.
He's going back to like where
the home he grew up in.
The home he grew up in. And to go back to just the ending overall and it moving so quick, and that's probably the thing I don't like about the movie too. It's like the cop shows up, the cop dies, and it's kind of silly. You get the shot of the cop flipping upside down, all bloody. Yeah, it's kind of strange, but that's probably the weakest. It's a great ending.
Yeah.
I love Claire entering the house, the wheelchair chasing her, really intense scene.
Oh my God, the cheer growls at her. It's crazy.
It becomes this force that just wants to get her. The ghost is obviously upset because George C. Scott John can't really help him. He's doing as much as he can, and the senator's not dealing with this shit. He doesn't want to basically confront the truth. That's basically what the ending is. And again, going back to something we said earlier, John is just stuck in the middle of this when he really has nothing to do with it. And just the whole way it's executed, I will say it is a little clunky. Just
a little quick.
It's quick, and it's almost like, even with the cop dying, it's a little odd. It comes off as a premonition, vision type deal, but I don't think that's what they were going for. But that's what it feels like, and that's. It's still a great ending.
The cop you probably could have lost the cop and it wouldn't have even, like, he could have, he came in, he told him stay away from him, and then the fact that he dies, it almost doesn't add anything to the story.
It's an irrelevant character. He could have been removed entirely from the script and it wouldn't have changed anything in the movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I get that. It's one of those things where you could say that about a lot of different things, when it comes to a movie like this, I guess they just want to add more meat to the bones and stretch out scenes a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of movies, especially like horror movies of this time that are really slowly paced, they had a lot of exposition with characters where in reality, this movie's an hour and 45 minutes. It probably could have been shaved down to an hour and 35. You know what I mean? And
an hour,
that scene is...
Hour 47, yeah.
Yeah, so close. So think about it. That scene, that character would have been removed. It would have sped up the film a little. And maybe they could have fleshed out that ending a little better, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they added the cop, so you know.
Well, that does say a little bit more about the characters though, between the cop and then there's the other woman that works at the historical society who calls the senator when they're looking into it, which almost implies that the senator has known this his whole life.
Yeah, he almost
like
doesn't want to.
Maybe he did know. Yeah, like this is why they don't. This is why they don't have people. People.
He doesn't want
the
to
house
accept
doesn't want
it.
people. Well, I don't know if he doesn't want to accept it. I think that that he doesn't want it to come out. That he's not actually.
Well, he thinks it's blackmail. That's the whole like, oh, you're trying to blackmail me, but that's not even what George C. Scott's trying to do.
But I mean, even before that,
Yeah.
I think the senator always knew this, and that's why when someone's looking into the house, she calls him immediately. That like he knows that the whole thing, his entire inheritance is predicated on the fact that the little boy survives to be 21 years old.
Yeah.
If he's not the little boy, legally, even now, 70, 80 years later, it's not his.
Yeah, the inheritance isn't his. He
it's
basically
quite
is
possible.
Yeah.
Yes, that legally he might literally lose everything.
He'll lose everything, and he's a politician, so it's like
it's quite possible. Yeah, that exactly. On top
we
of that,
see
he's
his
a
like
politician.
private jet, and we see what his life is. And this is an older. I forget. I don't have the actor's name in my notes.
Melvin Douglas.
There you go. I know he's been in a lot of shit too. But you know you see him, and he's like an 80-year-old man. He passed away. The actor a year later. This is like an 80-year-old man.
Oh,
which
yeah,
I think
he was.
Adds,
he was very...
Yeah, which adds to just the realization that you're not who you literally have lived almost your entire life, and you're not that person. You're not.
And I think he knew.
know?
I think he knew, or at least had a heavy suspect. I think that John's right when he says that he suspected it. In fact, the actor was old. He was very frail. He was very slow moving. You know, but he's still when they have the two of them in the room together.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Holy crap! Like
it's intense.
They own it. You can tell the caliber of two actors in this room right here. You see it. You know,
but these are not like young guys. Like George C. Scott's like in his 50s, early 50s at least in this movie. About 52, 53. So it's like these are like two guys. Like you got like an 80-year-old man, like a middle-aged 50-something-year-old man, and you know George C. Scott can play grumpy when he wants to. So it's like really and aggressive. Yeah. It's just a very well acted scene, and just kind of how it all plays out.
The director even said that at that end scene when he's walking up the stairs, he said if you watch it in slow motion, he's like if you go frame by frame, you can actually Peter Medak says you can actually see my hands out because he went up the stairs. As soon as he gets to the top landing, the set crew is dropping the ceiling.
Yeah,
you know, and he said, and he was moving very slowly and very frail. He said just because of his physical condition, so he just barely made it out of the way. And he's like, and if you see for like a frame or two, you actually see Peter Medak. I think it's the director's hands reach out just in case he fell.
Wow, I have to go back and watch that. That's crazy. I didn't even
notice it. I wanted to go back and look at it too. When he said it, I just didn't go back and look. But apparently he said, he's like, my hands are in the shot just in case he falls to catch him.
He looked frail. He looked the actor, and again, he died a year later. So when this was released, so imagine he died in 81, I believe.
Yeah, he was 80 when he died. I
remember. I went on his Wikipedia while watching the movie because I'm so curious as to, and he passed away a year later. So it's kind of crazy.
Goddamn son of a bitch! What is it you want? What do you want from me? I've done everything I can do. There's nothing more to do.
Before we give our closing thoughts here, let's run down just really quick we don't have to go in depth in detail, just kind of what the special, you already talked about one of them, you know, the backstory of the actual haunting and that Phil Goldstein guy, the character with his nice colorful shirt talking about what happened, the commentary, There's also a on location type deal where they run down all the locations.
I think that could have been a little bit better.
They don't actually go to all of them, only some of them, right? Yeah. So
they go to like 2 or 3 of them, and they didn't even go to all. Like you said, they didn't. I would have liked to see all of them, but Mike Gingold and Ted Gogan go to Lincoln Center for it, and he does his Mike Gingold from Fangoria. He does that himself. He's done a lot of different commentary.
Yeah, I think I saw him on the Maniac Blu-ray too. That I have.
He does that regularly.
It's cool.
That's one of
his things. It's always cool to go to
yeah.
filming locations where they shot movies. I'm a big fan of that. But I feel like I've watched some YouTubers that do a better job at going to where a film was located and locating every aspect. But I get it.
This wasn't
movie,
done very well.
Nah, it was okay.
This was kind of...
It's probably the weakest
the two of them did
all
it.
the...
Two of them went and had fun. When they shot that, they went and they did that... so they did the Lincoln Center one, and they actually recreated the shots. Mm-hmm. And then the house, the exterior of the house itself where they shot, that house no longer exists. It's another house that's built there.
They built something in its place, basically.
Yeah, they built something else there. Ryan Nicholson, the director of Gutterballs, he goes there. I mean, he's just outside of it for like...
Yeah, I was in Canada, right? If I remember correctly?
I believe so.
I
believe so. And he goes there, and he's outside it for like 2 minutes, and he talks for a little bit.
Well,
it's kind of cool.
They shot a lot of... it's like very Canadian, a lot of the stuff that they shot in this movie, so it makes sense.
I think the whole set was Canadian.
Canadian was Canada,
yeah. They had to shoot a certain percentage of the film in Canada to get the grants or whatever.
Yeah.
So it is mostly a Canadian production, and then everything else is just location. Like the outside of the house is here,
sets,
the outside of the house in Seattle. Yeah, it's all the outside of the houses in Seattle, and then there's the the airport that he's in is actually the same airport that DB Cooper flew out of.
Oh, really? That's funny. I didn't even recognize that. I would have never known. So,
so we have that. So you have the location. You have the location moving to locations.
I forget what they call
the Cheeseman Park one where the guy talks about the history.
Yeah, there's that.
Building the House of Horror where they talk about the
art director
sets that they built. Yes, the actual art director and the sets they built, the facade and all that.
That's a good one.
There's a cool little thing of Mick Garris.
Yeah, I like that one.
Just talking.
It's short. It's like 4 minutes long. It's like one of the shorter.
Short. It's really cool though.
Getting him on like Masters of Horror to direct an episode and all that. So it is cool. It's always good to see Mick Garris on on stuff. Funny enough, the first time you were on Haunted Hangover Anthology Obscura, we talked about a Masters of Horror episode. So there you go. Now you're here doing this show with me.
Mick Garris is he's everywhere. And then there's another one which is probably besides the history, besides the house on Cheeseman Park, the interview. It was at Morbido Fest in 2018 Peter Medak did an interview there. This is like an hour long.
Yeah, that's probably the longest.
It's very meaty, and it talks about his career. It talks about the fact that he's not a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah,
but he's a World War II survivor. He was in what was he? Shit.
I don't remember that detail at all. Yeah,
he was born in Hungary, and it was right after he was born during World War II, and as he grew up after World War II, Hungary became very heavily communist.
Okay.
And he left specifically because of it. That's why he left the country, because he couldn't pursue artistic anything.
Yeah, that's depressing. The guy just wanted to make movies, man, and be artistic.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's also something with the composer as well, right? Too, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
there's a whole
he talks to the composer.
I forget the gentleman's name. I know he works with John Williams a lot because he talks about working on. Yes.
Ken Wanberg.
I have the Blu-ray right in front of me. I could have just said that too. Yeah, you're right.
Ken Wanberg.
Kenneth Wanberg. He talks about his relationship with John Williams and working on Star Wars and Jurassic Park and all those movies, which is really cool. How he went from Star Wars to this, because Star Wars was only a few years prior. It was like 77, I think, if I remember correctly.
Well, I mean, John Williams technically he worked with John Williams. This was his.
This was just him. John Williams had nothing to do with it. It was like they just worked together, were collaborators together. But that's basically it. There's also like radio spots, posters, the usual stuff. I do have to dive into the commentary. I myself have not watched it with the commentary, so that's one thing I have to take some time out. And I'm sure they give you a lot of facts about the movie. And like you said, the whole thing with holding the actor when he was going up the steps, I would have never even noticed that if it probably wasn't for the commentary. You told me about
it. He talked about it, and I don't see it, so I have to watch it.
Whatever, the editor or the way they shot it, they did a great job.
Well, you know what it is? It might also be one of those things that being the director, or he knows where it is. Like, he knows where he was sitting, and he can see. Yeah, like, we look at it, it might be just a weird shape in the background, but he's looking like, no, that's my hand.
Shadow on the wall.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
like
that
1 centimeter more out of frame is like his finger like holding like that. So
but he said if you go frame by frame, you see it. It's quite possible only he sees it because he knows it's everybody else is like,
he's seen the movie 100 times. Yeah, he's seen it a million times. He knows every nook and cranny of every frame. So that's kind of the thing. Here's before we give our closing thoughts. Do you think this is a good buy? Do you think the listeners should purchase The Changeling on the Blu-ray, on this Blu-ray specifically? Probably the 4K at this point.
I think get the 4K because it also has the Blu-ray as well, so you get both. And then it has the soundtrack, so it's everything that's been released. And it has the new transfer, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I
think that this is a film that should be in every horror collector's collection.
I agree.
Number one, this is a staple. You need to have it because this is where the haunted house films come from.
Yeah,
like it really is. It's the inspiration for countless haunted house
I think
movies.
if you're a horror fan and you've never seen this movie and you watch it, you're gonna be like, oh shit, because you're gonna see just. There's stuff that other movies have sprinkled, other haunted house movies like use bits and pieces. I was even trying to think of like The Ball. I feel like another horror film has used a ball before. I can't think of it right now, but I agree with you.
I can't. But yeah,
I agree. Horror fans, you should own this movie.
Yeah, with my age, I have to fight with that. What do you mean you've never seen it? What do you mean you've never seen that? I have to fight with that because of my age. A little bit.
You're a 25-year-old horror fan. You've probably never seen this movie. Or even heard of it. A lot of horror fans don't talk about it, in all honesty.
They don't.
You don't really hear.
It's one of those movies that's and then somebody says, "You're right. Oh man, The Changeling. That's amazing. Yeah. That's right." It really does. It doesn't get forgotten, but it doesn't get talked about as much as it should.
It doesn't get enough love. That's kind of just it's underrated. That's the word to use. It's underrated. And not enough people.
As influential as it is, it's still underrated.
It's still underrated, and I'd say the same thing. My closing thoughts are this. This is basically what I'll say. It's not the most action-packed film. I would admit that it's not. It's very slowly played. It's very slowly paced, but it's got a lot of solid performances in it. Obviously, George C. Scott he's the king of the movie. He carries the entire film. It's bleak. It's depressing. It's the perfect atmosphere for that style of storytelling, with it being a haunted house and just the setup of everything. And it's probably the only movie I could think of that makes a rubber ball and weird wheelchair extremely frightening. And I'd say this, we both highly recommend it.
What is it in that house, Claire? What is it doing? Why is it trying to reach me?
John.
Is it because of my daughter? I can't go through all this again.
John, you must get out of that house.
So that was our very deep dive into The Changeling. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Haunted Hangover. Also, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/HauntedHangover31.
Be sure to rate and review us. That would be greatly appreciated. It helps new people find the show, and it tells the algorithm that you like us.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
more booze.
Catch you guys later.